How's it going, everybody? I hope my guitar level is not too loud. The amp I'm playing through has an issue. Thanks, Jersey. Appreciate it. So, as you can tell by the title, we're going to look at some AC/DC riffs. We did some AC/DC riffs a while back, and I had totally forgotten, so I almost like just sent out the same duplicate ones. And so yeah, we got some new ones. Some of these I haven't played in a long time, so it might be a little bit like last week where I'm trying to figure it out as we go along. How am I feeling? I'm feeling fine. I know some of my other nieces and nephews out there they're in some terrible weather. Like Crit, she's been without power for quite a while now, and people on the East Coast. So I'm just thankful that I'm not there, and that I'm finally getting over all the cold crap here. It's been raining and it's melted most of the snow. All right, so like I said, we're going to be looking at some AC/DC riffs. So there's a link in the description where you can download the tabs so you can follow along. These tabs are kind of a mess. So as far as like, usually I have everything, section A, like one song or riff or whatever might be section A and then section B. It's like that, but there's like 3 section Bs and 2 section Ds and stuff like that, because these are just from other things that I've done in the past, and I just kind of spliced them together for this. Oh, I was wondering that, Jersey, like what it was like. I mean, I guess I could just check, the national weather, but I'm too lazy to do that. All right. So, got anybody new out here tonight? Anybody here for the first time? Crit, speak of the devil. Glad you're able to make it. Yeah, if there's anybody new, chime in and let me know where you're watching from, where you're tuning in from. And like I said, there is a link in the description where you can download the tabs. All right, so like I said, these are in like a really weird order. So there's 3 pages, so I'm just going to go I'm just going to go like, do everyone on page 1 and then page 2 and then page 3. So like it goes A and then C. So just disregard those parts. Oh, hi, Jimmy. I remember you from last week. Glad to see you back. Hello, Rick. All right. So, man. And Crit, it looks okay, when I'm looking at, the monitor. I mean, it looks the same way it does every week. I always see me, which is kind of scary. But if you might be having, if it's still up there in that same neck of the woods, you're probably having internet issues. Hello, good guitar man. Welcome. I believe you're new. I don't recall you being here before, but that don't mean anything. My memory is absolutely garbage. All right, so this first one we're going to look at is the riff from Dog Eat Dog. Also, some of these riffs are kind of aimed more towards like, really green players, really beginners, and then some of them are a little bit more difficult. So there's quite a few of them. So everyone may not be able to play all of them or whatever, but there should be enough. So there's 1 or 2 riffs that anybody could play, whatever skill level. All right, yeah. So this is this is actually kind of a really cool riff. So we start off with this E5. See if I can trying to make it so it's not so. Oh, that's better. That's a little not quite so loud. Um, now jerseys. These are some of these are going to be super easy. So like this one here is this one's pretty. This one's a pretty easy one. So we've got this E5. So I'm just barring my first finger on the second fret of the A and the D string, and then the low E string is open. And the the timing on this is kind of weird, especially just to like try to count it. But you know, if you're familiar with the song, you could just feel it. Uh, so it's eighth notes. We come on this on the downbeat of one, and then on the and to one we rest. So it's like, and then on the downbeat of two, it's just the open string. So like one and two. So when you play the whole, you know, when you play the whole riff, it makes more sense. Um, so then on the and to two, we're going to go to an A5. So all you have to do is just take your finger and just scoot it up. So you're still barring at the second fret, but now you're just getting the D and the G string, and the A string is open. So that's A5. So it's like, then you're going to do the pedal, open A string twice, and then we've got a D5. So what it is it's just like your regular D chord, but no high E string. So when you're transitioning from here, you can just take your second finger and just set it down on the third fret of the B string, and then scoot your finger up so you're not barring the second fret of the D string anymore. The D string should be open now. So like, or, oh my gosh. There we go. Weed is legal in Canada. This is going to be a hoot. So that's I take it that's where you're from. Is that you're in Canada? Because it's legal here in the United States, and well, not everywhere, but it's getting there. It's even legal where I live, not recreational, medical. I know, right, Crit? That's my sentiments exactly. Okay, so when you're moving up, you're just moving from. So that's a pretty easy transition. I think you know, Jersey. I'm sure you can get that. So, and then you've got a rest on the and to four, and then a rest on the downbeat of one of the second measure. And then E and or 4 and 3. Yeah. So actually, it's the first. It's not the downbeat of one. It's a 16th, right? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Okay, that was weird. I tripped myself out for a second there. Okay, so you just got 3 open E strings. Then you hit that D5 again to the A5 and back to the E5, and then it just repeats. It's just basically the same thing over and over again. Oh, thank you, Jimmy. Appreciate that. I'm trying to this this amp I've got is a and amps that I literally got out of a dumpster, two of them, and they're brand new, but they're defective. So when the volume is turned all the way down, it's still like really loud. And this don't look like any amp on the inside. Like not like I'm an expert on it, but I'm used to looking in there. I guess I'm used to looking at old like tube amps. This thing's all looks like a computer inside of there. It's like a microchip looking shit, and I don't know how to fix it. But it sounds pretty good. But it's if I turn my volume up on the guitar all the way, it'll just totally drown me out. You won't be able to hear me talk. Maybe that would be okay too. Yeah, so that is Dog Eat Dog. Yeah, that I don't like that. That sounds better, but like if I'm trying to talk over the top of that, you're gonna be able to hear me. Like I said, maybe that's a good thing. All right. So if anybody has any questions about that, lay them on me. But it's pretty straightforward. It, you know, everything, just there on the second fret, except when you put you're on the third fret of the B string for that D chord. Whoops. All right, we can move along then. So next one is the riff or flick of the switch, and this is like a pretty cool sounding riff too, but it's pretty easy. Oh yeah, for sure. For sure, Jimmy. Yeah, it's great. And it wasn't like when I put these together, I mean, I'd like to say that, oh, I did this by design and put them to gradually increase in difficulty. That ain't the way it is. They're just in there the way they are. So we'll see. And like I said, some of these I haven't played in a long time, so I'll have to probably kind of refigure it out as we go along. Okay, so the next one, this one, flick of the switch. It's pretty easy, but it's like a really cool sounding riff, I think. I really like it. I just think it's a really tough sounding riff. So we start off, we got an A5, and this is exactly like the A5 in Dog Eat Dog. So again, we're just barring, picking up the second fret of the D and the G string, and then the A string is open. Then we're going to go to a C5. So third fret on the A string and fifth fret on the D and the G string. And you can do it like this or do it like this, whatever's more comfortable. And then a D5, just like the one we did in the in Dog Eat Dog. But you don't have to do it this way. I would just do it like a regular the way you normally play D. But what I do is I just take instead of pressing all the way down on the second fret, I just let my finger still sit there, but it's just touching the string, so that way it's muted. And by the way, if you end up getting that in there, all you're doing is you're adding in the major third, making it a D major chord. It still sounds good. So what's weird about this is the timing. So when we hit this A5 at the beginning of it, it's a dotted quarter note. So really quick, a dotted quarter note, you just take whatever the note's value and add 50% to it. So if we take a quarter note, we add 50% to it, that's an eighth note. So what it means is that we're going to play this, and it's going to get all of beat 1 plus the downbeat of beat 2. And then on the and to 2 is when we're going to switch to the C5. So like I said, this is a little unusual. Well, I guess it's not even really unusual. It just might be if you're a beginner, you may have never done anything with weird timing like this. We're kind of used to everything always being 1, 2, 3, 4. And anytime something comes in on the and, it feels foreign, feels weird when you're starting out. Is what I'm saying. So you're going to have 1, 2, and 3, and. Then on the and of 3, you hit the open A string, and then beat 4 is that D5. Now we hit that D5. It takes care of all of beat number 4. Man, my throat. That takes care of all of beat 4, but then it's tied to the downbeat of the second measure. So again, for those of you who may not already know this, if you look at the tablature part of it in that second measure, you can see it's the same, the open D string, second fret of the G string, third fret of the D string, it's that, or B string, it's that D5, but it's in parentheses. And then if you look up at the actual notation, you can see that they're connected together. There's lines connecting them together. So that's what's called a tied note. So what it does is it rings out for that whole duration. So it's actually the same thing it was on the dotted quarter note. That's the same thing. It's a quarter note plus an eighth note. It's just this way. They had to do this because there wouldn't have been, you already had 4 beats and it's in 4/4 time. So that to make that note ring as long as they wanted it to, it had to carry into the next measure. So we hit that on 4/1, and then starting on the end of 1, we've got this little chromatic walk up. So we're just going to play starting on the first string, or excuse me, the 6th string on the 1st fret. And this is on the end of 2. So it's and, then we're going to go to the 2nd fret with your 2nd finger, and that's going to be 3. And then to the 3rd fret, that's and I said 3, that's wrong. So we're ringing in 1 and 2 and then on the end of 3, or the end of 2 rather, we go to the 4th fret. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then to the A string, 2, 3, 2. So you could do it with your 2nd, so you're like that. But what I end up always doing is like that. So that way I'm right here, ready to drop onto that A chord again. But either way, I mean, I think it 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I don't think it really makes a huge difference. It's just kind of whatever is, I guess, whatever is easier for you, whatever kind of feels more natural. Yeah, just whoops. All right, so like I said, not too terribly tough to play. The chords and stuff. It's just that rhythm is a little strange, but I think it makes it sound cool. I think this is like this is a tough riff that kind of got overlooked. Whenever anybody talks about AC/DC and like, awesome riffs and things, they always mention, Back in Black and all the ones, the ones that you've heard a million times. But I never really hear anybody mention this particular song or this album. This was a good album too. Thanks, Jersey. Yeah. So does anybody have any questions about that particular one? And if you are just joining us, there's a link in the description where you can download the tabs for this stuff. And if you like what I'm doing, show me some love, hit that thumbs up button. Thank you, whoever did that right when I said it. um, that all, really helps for them to, to show them that I'm doing a good job and I can continue to come and do this for you on Wednesdays. All right. Oh, thank you, Jimmy. I really appreciate that. I've I've been a guitar teacher since 1987, and I've been, played in bands, played in front of big crowds, did all that kind of stuff. I don't know why this gives me like massive anxiety, so I usually have to have a glass or two of courage while I'm doing it. Thanks, Jersey. Appreciate it. All right. So, Telephone Mick, welcome. I guess I'm saying that right. Telephone Mick. Australia, nice. Uh, oh, Sin City. That's a good choice. That was and welcome, Brian. That was on one of the ones I've done before. Like I said, I have like a really shitty memory, so I have to like keep a list and go back and look through history of what I've done because I could come and do the same thing every week and think it's something new. And anyhow, that was one that I've done in the past. So not doing it tonight, but sooner or later there's going to be a rerun. But that is a good choice. I like a lot of AC/DC Brian Johnson era, but I really where my heart is with that band is in the old stuff with Bon Scott. I really liked. I don't remember all what's in here, but I'm thinking that Flick of the Switch may have been the newest one, and not because there isn't good riffs. I I'll just be straight up. I haven't listened to a lot of it, and that's like totally my bad. But it's just I don't know. A lot of bands like they keep putting out records, and it's like I listen to the first whichever ones, and then I don't really get into the newer material. And a lot of times I find out like, oh wow, that was a mistake because it's like really good stuff. And then other times I hear stuff and go, okay, that's why I keep you here, at whatever time. Um, like Iron Maiden. I love Iron Maiden. Their first 5 albums, and then after that, not so much. And it's not that it's not good. It's just I don't really care for it. All right, so this is for the riff from "Let's Get It Up" off of "For Those About to Rock," which is like probably my favorite Brian Johnson era album. Of what I've heard, like I said, there's probably more material that I haven't heard than I have. Because they put out all these albums. Like I know there was one called Black Ice, and I've never listened to it. It's probably 10 years old by now. Okay, so this one's a little bit more difficult than the ones we've looked at, but it's still not like super hard. One of the things that's the benefit with this one is that it's not very fast. And even if you play it slower, it still sounds cool because it's a blues, like pretty much all AC/DC songs. All right, so we start off. We've got a little little riff. This just a little opening. So what it is, it's the open low E string, and and then to the second fret, and I would use your third finger, and I'll show you. Or actually, hold on a second, maybe. This is one of the ones that I haven't played in a while, so I got to make sure that I'm. Okay, so for me personally, it feels better to do it with my third finger. Only reason is because when we play, because it's open to slide to 4 on the all on the low E, and then on the A string, it's the A string, the second fret, and the D string second fret, like you're doing like an E minor. And you're going to want to use your first finger, because what comes after that is this A that you want to play. Oh, well, let's get. I'm getting ahead of myself. So yeah, if you like that, but for me, it makes more sense to use my third finger. So open to slide to 4. And then you take your first finger in bar, so you're picking up the second fret of the A and the D string. So you got. Now, the timing on that, you got. This is an 8th note, and then these 2 notes are 16th notes, and then these 2 are 8th notes. So all that means is that slide from 2 to 4 happens quickly. It takes up the same amount of space as the open string did. So like, whoops. See how I'm like doing that a little bit quicker? Then you have a rest, just an 8th note rest, which buys you just a second of time to take that first finger where you've got a barring there on the second fret of the A and the D string, and you're just going to move it up. So now you're playing an A, and that's the same move that we saw earlier, except it was A going to D. Now we're going E going to A. Now you want to do this with your first finger, and you got to be able to bar all the way through. So the A string is open, and then the second fret of the D, G, and B string. Oh my God, man, I've got cotton mouth so bad. All right. Yeah, the reason that's important is because then we're going to go to this D over A. One of my favorite Malcolm Young type of chords. I really do. So what you're going to do is you're going to keep your first finger barred like you had it for A. Then you're going to put your second finger down onto the third fret of the B string, and your third finger down onto the 4th fret of the D string. So you could think of this as like, if you were barring here, it would be a B minor 7. So you're like a B minor 7 over A, but we got this D over A. So you have to be able. So you start with the A, go to the D over A. So that whole sequence. Sorry, brain farted. So the first one we hit is on the first D over A is on the and of 4. And then we hit it again, and it's a whole note. So it takes care of all of that second measure. Okay, and then starting on the third measure, it's the exact same thing as the first one. The difference is now is we're going to go to the we can do the A, then the D over A. And the difference is that when we hit the second time, like on the first one, it was a whole note on the second measure. On this fourth measure, it's a dotted half note. Actually, this is written as a quarter tied to a half note. Same thing. It still gets 3 beats. You are welcome, Jeff. I don't know what I did, but you are welcome. Or do you just mean like for doing this? Sorry. And sometimes you guys are probably thinking, God, this guy's a dope. What's this guy on? I want some of it. All right, so the whole kit and caboodle, and then it just repeats. Oh my gosh, I keep trying to play the other song we were doing. Now the whole thing repeating. And that's it. So like I said, it's a little it's a little bit harder than the previous ones, but not, it's still doable. Big thing is with these is, like I said, that since they're all like basically some rendition of a blues, even if you play them really slow, they still sound really good. There's riffs like this that sometimes if you really slow them down or speed them up, then all of a sudden you go, oh my gosh, this is such and such song, because this whole idea it's just used a lot in the blues. But you get nothing else out of this. That's such a cool chord. Good old Malcolm Young. All right. So does anybody have any questions about that particular one? Oh, you're welcome, Jimmy. Appreciate it. All right. Okay, the next one is Shake a Leg. And this is another one that I haven't played in a while, so this game isn't as fun tonight. This is being tripping up on this. All right, so let's see. So it looks like we're resting and then coming in on the end of 4 with an E5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then that's tied to. So this is another example of the tied note thing. So this is an 8th note, and it's tied to another eighth note, so it gets the equivalent of like a full beat. But you're counting it and 1, and then on the and of 1, you go to the 4th fret of the low E string. So, and then back to it. So it's just the E5, like we've done like in just about every one of these songs now. Starting to see a pattern here. Maybe AC/DC songs are all the same. Actually, I'm just kidding. But I saw a really funny meme. It was a guitar control meme, but it was Angus Young, it says, I'm tired of everybody always saying that we made 12 albums that sound the same when in fact it was 14 or something like that. I thought that was pretty funny. If you're not familiar with these, this is like classic AC/DC, man. Oh, okay. I remember this one now. All right, so you're gonna bar with your first finger at the second fret, the E5, and then the fourth fret of the low E string, and then back to that E5. So just keep your finger there. So you're like, got it. Then you've got to do starting on beat 3. It's an eighth note, but it's a slide from nowhere. So if you look at the tab, and again, this is just, I realize there's probably a lot of you that already know how to do this, but for those that don't, because I remember when this tab stuff first started being popular, I thought it was the most confusing thing in the world. I hated it. It just didn't make any sense to me at all. And there was no resources, like Google to help you with it. It was just, who you could talk to that knew anything about it or whatever. So it was kind of hard. All right. So what that means is that if it was you can see the little line coming. So that's indicating a slide, and it's pointing up. So that means that it's from down low. If it was the other way, it would mean you were like starting at a higher note and coming down, but we're going up. So since it's a slide from nowhere, it doesn't have a specific starting point. So, it isn't like if it said slide 2 to 4, that would be, but I could start on the second fret, do a slide from nowhere. Hear the difference? All it is that instead of pick, slide, you pick and slide simultaneously. All right, so we got. So we do that slide from nowhere to the fourth fret. You want to use your third finger. And then to the second fret of the A string. Then on the next measure, you're going to do a slide from nowhere, but this time you're going to go to the fifth fret. And then to the fourth fret on the A string. And then to the seventh fret. And then the fifth fret on the A string. So. And then after you hit those two fives right there, then the open, the E5, and then it just starts over again. So. Whoops. Oh my God, why do I keep trying to skip that first part? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so that one definitely a little bit harder as far as the stuff with the timing, at least, or I'm struggling like hell with it right now. But that don't necessarily mean anything. All right, yeah, so that is Shake a Leg. Does anybody have any questions about that particular one? Or anything else? And like this is a general Q&A, so it's not like it has to be questions that are exactly pertaining to what we're talking about. Just any guitar, related stuff. Yeah, it is good for practicing slides. That's the thing that's nice about a lot of these, you know, riffs is that not only are they cool riff, but it's just a fun way to be able to practice certain techniques rather than doing like an exercise or something. So, because most exercises are they're based around what it's going to do for you, not how fun it is to play it, but like the end result. So sometimes they're not exactly the most exciting things to do. All right. Well, moving right along then. Well, the Girls Got Rhythm, another one that I haven't played in a while. So I was just doing a little homework right there. This one's pretty easy. Other than this one transition on it is kind of you have to really jump around, kind of change your hand position. Um, we start off, we're just doing the power chords like we've done before, the dyad where it's a fourth. So we're on the seventh fret of the D and the G string. And you could do this with just with one finger or your third finger, then your first finger, whatever's more comfortable for you. So we start off on the seventh fret, and this is on the downbeat of one, and then we rest on the end of one and the downbeat of two, and then on the end of two, we're gonna go to the fifth fret. So if we like one and two and three, four, and then on the downbeat of four is a rest. And then on the and of four, we're going to shift back up to the seventh fret on the A string. We're going to hit that and then do a hammer onto the ninth fret. And that's coming in on the downbeat of one of the second measure. It's like, whoops. And then on the and of one to the seventh fret on the D string. The downbeat of two is that note again, and then the and of two is the open A string. Now, this is the part where it's kind of where you have to do it. You have to do a change your hand position, and we already kind of with here, even no matter which way you do it, you have to come up here. Then we're gonna after we hit then we come down to the fifth fret, just like where we started, and that is on beat 3. So, and 1, 2, and 3, or 2, my bad, or the and of 2. And 1, and 2, and 3, and then to the 7th fret on the D string for 4, and then the open A string for the and. So this moving back and forth between those two positions, if you're relatively new to playing, that can be challenging because you're going to feel like you have to be just staring at your hand continuously, or you're not going to do it right, or whatever. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with looking at your hands when you play, but you don't want it to be where you're dependent, so you're just constantly looking back and forth between your right and left hand. Maybe not with this because if you're just now learning it, that it's a little bit different. But try taking a riff that you already know how to play well, or at least that you've played enough that you can do it decently, and try playing it without looking at your hands, and just keep your eyes on the tab as to where you are. Even if you have it memorized, that's just good practice to get that coordination. But I've had thousands of students, and I have never had one that didn't say the first time they tried that, go, wow, I didn't think I could do that at all without looking. You can play without looking. You're better at doing it than you think you are. Where everybody's your own work. We're all our own worst critics, right? So, damn. And then it just repeats. Man, to try to get that in that loop. So, well, let me just do this first and then I'll explain something with the ending on here. Okay, that's what I keep doing wrong. Okay, so on the tab, if you at the beginning of the second measure, well, actually, you see it right at the beginning of the first measure. You've got the double line with the two dots. It's the beginning of a repeat. And if you don't know how that works, if you look at the end of the second measure, it's the opposite. It's the like colon with two black lines. So that means that it's everything in between there. You're going to repeat it before you move on to the next part. And if you're going to repeat it more than once, it will say right up above the end repeat bar, it'll like say like X4, X5, like how many times you're going to do it. But this one here has a first and a second ending. So if we look at the second measure, it's got that little bracket with like the number 1. And then the third measure has a little bracket with number 2. So what this means is you're going to play the first measure and then the second measure, then the first measure, and then the third measure. So that third measure is just 9th fret of the A string to the 7th fret of the D string, back and back. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now, it keeps doing that on the first ending one. It doesn't say on the tabs how many times, but you recognize it from the song. But da 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 da, and then that's where the verse starts up. So it does like those first 2 measures, a half a dozen times probably before it does that last one. All right, so that's Girls Got Rhythm, the rock and roll rhythm. That's poetry. Does anybody have any questions about that one? Oh my gosh, crit, I totally spaced it. Forgot to play it. All right, so we are now on page 3, and now we have, examples A and C. Like I said, this is just all put together weird, but it just seemed like more work than it was necessary to go through and change all them letters. So I figured, I had faith that everyone would be able to figure out the code or whatever. So this one is Rock and Roll Ain't Noise Pollution, and this is a really, really cool riff. This is a little bit more difficult than the other one, other ones, the ones we've done already, because this first part of it, you got to hybrid pick it, because you're going to be able to play the A, G, and B strings simultaneous. So if you haven't, if that's like a new concept to doing hybrid picking or anything, it'll definitely make this a little bit more challenging. But it's not, I'm making it out like it's this super crazy difficult thing to do, and it's just really not. Well, I guess it depends on how far you go with it, but to do this particular thing, this is pretty easy. This is kind of like beginner, into that idea. All right, so we're going to start off. We're doing some dyads. So these, if been here through the dyad series, then you would already know some of these. But I'm on the first fret of the G string with my first finger, and the B string is open. So I'm playing this with my fingers. So I'm holding the pick with just my thumb and my first finger, and then that leaves with my other fingers free, although I don't really use my pinky for much of anything. It's mostly just my second and third finger. So I'm going to play that with these fingers. So I'm just plucking them with my fingers. Now I'm not pulling my hand back like this. I have the guitar, my arm resting here, on the edge of the guitar, and I'm just doing like this. You don't want like a whole bunch of movements. Believe me, this is a situation where you don't want to cut corners at first. You really want to make sure you try to have good technique with stuff like this. Let's make it easier for you in the long run. That was a huge mistake of my own, was to not do that. All right, so this is coming in. We rest on the first two beats. So this is coming in on the downbeat of 3, and then on the and of 3, we're going to move up a half step, and you can either use one finger like that, or you could use 2 fingers like this. I personally think that this is better because of what's coming next. So it's 1, 2, 3, and then on the downbeat of 4 we rest, and on the and of 4 we're going to scoot up a half step. So now we're barring here on the 3rd fret of the G and B string. I'm going to take my second finger and I'm going to put it on the 4th fret. So little vibrato. So we're hitting that on the and of 4, and it's tied to beat number 1 of the second measure. So just like the tied notes, like we were talking about earlier. That little squiggly line means vibrato. So I'm just kind of wiggling the strings a little bit. Then we're going to come back to barring just the 2nd fret. But now we're going to pluck these strings the same way, but we're also going to play the A string open with the guitar pick at the same time. So I'm just, I'm plucking and running my pick at the same time. So back up to the where we were with the 4th fret and 3rd fret. So whoops. Then we're going to go to the 3rd fret of the low E string, and I'm going to use my second finger because what's coming next is E5. So I've got my first finger ready to drop here on the 2nd fret. So my 3rd finger here on the, I'm hitting this on the and of 4, and then it's tied to the downbeat of 1, and then it's got a 1/4 step bend. So it's like just a slight little, just to put a little stank on it, to the E5. So. Then we're right back into this time. Instead of going to the bending, we're just going to hit that and then come up to an E5 up here. So 7th fret of the A string, and then the 9th fret of the D and the G string, or just the D string if you have a hard time getting all 3 of those, and the E string open, low E string. So And then it just starts over again, basically. Actually, I think he does do a slide like that in it, if I remember right. I haven't heard it in a long time, but I've heard it, a million times. All right, so yeah, that is rock and roll ain't noise pollution. I think so, Chris. I like that one. I think it's a it's a really good representation of their like core sound. Because I mean they're like totally like a blues thing, but don't get me wrong, I love ACDC. I think I thought maybe I was wearing an ACDC shirt, but I am not. All right, so we only got one more to look at, and that is the riff from Evil Walks, and it's not. It doesn't look like there's another one I haven't played in a while, but it doesn't look like it's too. Oh wow, this one's like really easy, but this is like a cool sounding riff. So we start off, we rest 1, 2, 3, and 4. So it's that same E5 shape that we've been doing all night long. So E string open at the second fret of the A string, but you could also have the second fret of the D string because that's just another E. So we're hitting this as an eighth note on the and of 3, and then we're hitting it again as a quarter note for beat 4. And then if you look there, beat number 4 is tied to beat number 1 of the second measure. So you're going to be 1, 2, 3, and 4, 1, and then it goes into the next part. So when you're playing this, there's 2 guitar parts. One guitar is going, and it's just ringing out while the other one's going. But obviously you can't do both parts at the same time. So then starting on the downbeat of 2, I forgot I didn't show you this part yet. So it's pretty simple. It's just like the power chord shape, fifth shape. So I'm on the second fret of the D string with my first finger, and then the fourth fret of the G string with my third finger. But then I'm also picking up this D here on the third fret of the B string with my second finger. So if you keep those fingers there, you could like almost emulate that sound of 2 guitars, but you got you're going to hit 2. Oh my gosh. On the downbeat of 2, it's the second fret of the D string. So 2, and then on the and of 2, it's this 4, but it's a quarter note, so it's also the downbeat of 3. And for anybody that's like really new to this whole counting thing, I apologize. I know how confusing it can sound at first. Like I said, I've been teaching for a long time, and so I've seen this over and over and over again. But you can get it. Anybody can get it. I have never ever had a student that I thought, oh, there's no way you're going to be able to play guitar. Anybody can learn how to play. Is everybody who learns how to play going to become the next Tim Henson or something? No, but you can still learn how to play and learn how to count. So we hit this 2, and 3 and then we come back to the G string for 4, and then the and of 4, we take your second and third finger off because you're already barring that the second fret of the A and the D string. So we hit that on the and of 4. So hit that on the and of 4, and then it's tied to a quarter note. So it takes all of beat 1 of the next measure. Then we hit it again on the downbeat of 2, and then on the and of 2, the D and the G string open. And so that's like and 3 and 4 and then on 4, it's like the first measure was. So then it just repeats the whole thing, just So that's a pretty cool riff. It's I don't know how much harder and easier it is than the average of everything we looked at. The only one we looked at that was actually really that is a little challenging if you're a little green. Well, shake a leg. I guess that was it. Shake your. It seemed like there was 2. Oh, let's get it up. Or no, Girls Got Rhythm. Basically, everything on page 2 are probably the most difficult ones, but they're not like really difficult. But again, if you're, if you just started playing guitar, last Thursday or something, I'm sure it would be super hard. All right, so that is all of the ones we're looking at. Does anybody have any questions about the last one, or any of them, or any guitar related questions in general? Oh, thank you, Telephone Mick. I really appreciate that. All right, well, I would like to thank everyone for coming out and tuning in. I know a lot of you guys are here every week, and I really appreciate that. It's all, it's growing really slowly, but it's growing. Oh, good luck, Crit. Crit hasn't had power. Where she lives, it's all that, East Coast stuff, and the weather is just like a brutal mofo up there. Thank you, Rick. Really appreciate that. But yeah, if you're new or whatever, or regardless if you're new, if you like what I'm doing, hit that thumbs up. It really helps with that whole YouTube algorithm thing. But it also helps Guitar Control to know that I'm doing a good job and that you like what I'm doing, and you're gonna keep tuning in. So yeah, every Wednesday, same bat time, same bat channel, all that good stuff. But I appreciate every one of you that came out tonight, and yeah, and if you just for whatever reason just now happen to tune in, there is a link in the description where you can download the tabs and you can watch the rerun, learn all the riffs. So I hope everybody has a good week. I hope you guys get your power back they're on the East Coast, and I will see y'all next Wednesday. Have a great night, everybody.